Good evening. My name is George Erickson, the Executive Director of the Metropolitan Commission. Tonight you will also be hearing from our Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Sean Bethea, and our Chief Engineer, Ms. Christy Hollander. As it is now 6 p.m., we would like to call the public hearing to order. One quick announcement before we get started this evening. Members of the public that are in attendance this evening will be permitted to speak. We have a sign-up sheet posted here in the meeting room. Speakers will be called by name in the order that they appear on the sign-up sheet if they indicated they wish to provide public testimony. We are live streaming the presentation this evening. We will also be providing an opportunity for the public to call in to a dedicated phone line to offer any comments at the close of tonight's presentation. For those attending in person tonight, we have restroom facilities and a public water fountain located in the hallway immediately to the left and right of the meeting room entrance doors. The purpose of the hearing this evening is firstly to inform customers of our proposed FY27 operating and capital improvement budgets, the FY 2028 to FY 2032 capital improvement plan, and any rate and fee changes for the upcoming fiscal year, which would become effective July 1st, 2026. And secondly, to gather public testimony and comment prior to approval and adoption of the budgets by both the Commissioners of St. Mary's County and the Metropolitan Commission. At this time, it is customary that we advise that the public hearing notice, as shown behind me on the screen, was properly published and that the certificate of publication will be filed as a part of the public hearing record. The Commission also notified all its customers of the date and time of this hearing during the last billing cycle. Although legislatively established in 1957, MetCom did not actually begin providing water and sewer services to our customers until 1964. Our mission is to provide these services in a manner that is sustainable, reliable, economical, and safe. Before we begin the formal presentation, there are just a couple of administrative reminders. Reminder one, the public hearing tonight is also being videotaped for the record and will be posted on the MetCom website. The presentation contains 51 slides, but we promise it will be informative and should not take more than a half hour to complete. The second reminder is that if any time during the presentation the screen is not clear or the live streaming reception is poor, a copy of our PowerPoint presentation can be viewed on our website at www.metcom.org under Public Notices, found in the Administrative drop-down menu at the top of the page, specifically under the Public Hearing section. So without any further delay, we'd like to get started, and we'll be sharing the screen so that you can better view the presentation. At this time, I would like to introduce our Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Sean Bethea.
Good afternoon. MetCom owns and operates 6 wastewater treatment plants. The Marley Taylor Water Reclamation Facility, located near Gate 3 of NES Patuxent River, is one of only 64 in the state of Maryland that was required to be ENR compliant. ENR stands for Enhanced Nutrient Removal, which is a process that uses technologies to remove higher levels of nitrogen and phosphorus to reduce environmental impact in the Chesapeake Bay. MetCom also operates 2 treatment plants for other entities, maintains 75 wastewater pumping stations and over 317 miles of gravity sewer lines and force mains. An increase of 2% of miles of lines over this time last year. We provide service to over 18,000 customers and in fiscal year 2025 treated more than 1.2 billion gallons of wastewater. As a result of the Marley Taylor wastewater treatment facility being ENR compliant, we are applying for the grant in the average amount of $210,000 to help offset the additional costs associated with the ENR process, such as maintenance, power, chemicals, testing, and sludge hauling. MetCom operates and maintains 28 separate water systems, 62 wells, 39 storage tanks, and 18 water towers. We also maintain close to 400 miles of water lines and 16,700 water meters serving over 18,300 customers. MetCom strives to provide high quality water. We are proud of now having our own state certified water quality lab, which allows for more timely and efficient results with the cost-saving benefit of not having to contact an outside lab. The cost of 1,000 gallons of water at the first tier in our rate structure is proposed to be $1.98, which is less than the average cost of a bottle of water. In fiscal year 2025, MetCom supplied just over 1.4 billion gallons of water to its customers and provides water to the volunteer fire department at no cost. The engineering department completed over 250 reviews last year, inspected 60 developer and construction projects, and reviewed 266 plats and plans. The department also managed over 70 million in construction projects, with 26.3 million in planning for fiscal year 27. Review fees are proposed to remain the same in fiscal year 2027. All engineering costs are not covered by engineering revenues, are allocated 60% to sewer and 40% to water. The engineering department also collaborates in developer cost share projects, and these projects are included in the operating budget. Moving on to general and administrative department, the fiscal year 2027 budget includes a cost of living and merit increase for employees. It also includes an equivalent stipend for those at the top of their grade. MetCom is proud to be able to support a paid internship program for current college students. And to show how successful that program is, in the past 5 years, MetCom has hired 3 interns into full-time equivalent positions. There are no new full-time or part-time positions included in the fiscal year 27 budget. To give you some idea of the volume of work done by the administrative department, MetCom is currently administering 29 loans and 2 grants. We issued 655 purchase orders last fiscal year. We generate approximately 18,000 invoices and bills every month, manage customer work orders, manage property acquisition, and all human resource activity in our board activity. Our budget process starts in the fall of each year by meeting with the departments and to the board, manage and prioritize the needs and goals. The baseline budget is established with known recurring expenditures such as salaries and benefits, contract commitments, and state and federal mandates. A rate study was also performed in 2025 and recommended an intermediate tier for residential use between 10,000 and 20,000 gallons per month. As we work through these requirements, they are presented to the board at work sessions through the winter. We refine these requests into what we call essential cost changes and also vet through new requests and initiatives. The 7-member MetCom board also has the opportunity to provide input on the priorities and introduce any initiatives they might want to be considered. This slide is a graphical summary of over 350 individual operating accounts that represent the recommendations for the fiscal year 27 operating budget, totaling $21,433,235. This budget includes a board public hearing reserve of 1.5%, which is less than the amount approved in the current fiscal year 2026 budget. This is the 3rd year of MetCom incorporating a small reserve for public hearing and possible emergencies throughout the year. To date, we have not had to utilize these reserves. As you can see from the totals at the bottom, the overall budget is in line with the recent rate study projections and represents an increase of approximately 4%. There are 42 revenue sources to support the operating budget, but the revenue from actual water and sewer use makes up more than 90% of the necessary revenue. MetCom's rate structure has been successful. The current tiered rate structure was implemented based on the customer feedback back in July 2015. The rate structure established a monthly ready-to-serve charge based on the size of the meter. The minimum monthly bill usage amount was the minimum monthly bill usage amounts was removed and the usage is based on actual consumption. An inclining block water usage rate structure was also implemented with tiers based on the meter size. Following a rate study that began in 2025, the fiscal year 27 proposes the introduction of an intermediate tier at 10,000 gallons per month and a reduction of gallons of use for determining non-metered charges from 7,500 to 6,000 gallons per month. Most customers will remain in the first tier. The intermediate tier captures typical peak household use. The third tier introduces a strong price signal for high volume customers, and the upper tier reflects a discretionary or excessive use. Sewer usage will be based on metered water volume for all customers that have a water meter. MetCom will also maintain a cap of 10,000 gallons on sewer usage for residential sewer customers with the 5/8-inch meter. The revenue collected at the current rates is not sufficient to cover the revenue requirements throughout the entire 5-year planning period for water and sewer, respectively. Under the current rate structure, shortfalls are anticipated as early as fiscal year 2027. The current rate structure relies on a broad middle tier that does not adequately distinguish between typical residential usage and higher volume consumption. This limits the rate design ability to align charges with observed usage patterns and causation. The alternate rate design better differentiates customer usage by introducing an intermediate tier at 10,000 gallons per month for the base 5/8-inch meter size and applying more graduated rate multipliers at higher usage levels. Modeling shows that alternative balance structure improves equity among customers while maintaining revenue, sufficiency, neutrality, and moderating bill impacts for low and medium usage customers. The next two slides provide the current rate structure and the proposed fiscal year 2027 rates. In fiscal year 2026, water service rates increased by 2.1% in fiscal year 2026. The water rates for Tier 1 users will increase by only 2.1%. The proposed fiscal year 27 rates for Tier 1 and Tier 2 users will increase, but will both be lower than the originally projected for fiscal year 2026. The proposed Tier 2 rates for 5,001 gallons to 10,000 gallons per month users will actually be lower than the current rate per 1,000 gallons. The corresponding use charges are proposed to be 1.98% per 1,000 gallons of water. Use a 2% or a 4-cent increase, but less projected in fiscal year 2026. Likewise, for sewer service rates, in fiscal year 2025 and 2026, the rate of increase was 2.7%. In fiscal year 27, the increase for Tier 1 users is proposed to be approximately by 5%, but will include a reduction of over 5% for non-metered users. The corresponding use charges are proposed to be $6.29 per 1,000 gallons for sewer use, which is a 54-cent increase, but 50 cents less than the projected in fiscal year 26. The next two slides provide a summary of each of department recommended budgets. Here we have the income and expenses for the sewer department and the water department. As you will note, operations and maintenance of the sewer system is more than twice the expenses of the water system, since the sewer includes both the consumption of water and its treatment. This is typical of the industry. The administrative department includes insurance, information technology, pension, hospitalization, postage, legal services, and many other expenses for the entire organization. These costs are eventually allocated overhead to engineering, water, and sewer based on each of these department percentages of the whole. Likewise, engineering costs are allocated 60% to sewer and 40% to water. This is a required distribution calculation for a public utility. Capital equipment and expenditures are budgeted each year as a depreciation expense. Equipment is generally programmed based on its life cycle. In fiscal year 27, we are focusing on the utility truck replacements. Again, in fiscal year 27, we are focused on utility truck replacements for treatment facilities and engineering with the new hydro evacuator for the construction division. Excavator, excuse me. And SCADA enhancement to our northern facility. SCADA, our supervisory control and data acquisition, allows MetCom to control and monitor our water systems remotely. We also reflect future year planning and phasing of equipment purchases. This simple graphical representation shows how each dollar is allocated in the operating budget. Again, note that sewer expenses are more than twice the expenses of providing water. At this time, we will provide some insight to the proposed capital budget improvement budget. The capital improvement budget serves two purposes. First, to upgrade and rehabilitate existing facilities, and secondly, to provide an additional capacity and lines for new customers. It is the basis for the capital contribution charge, which is a one-time charge at the time of connection, and the system improvement charge, which is a monthly charge paid by all customers who have an allocation on the system. Outstanding debt remains below 1% of MetCom's accessible base, and how well below the legislative limits. We have placed priority on short-term critical projects in renewal, rehabilitation, and resiliency programs. Each year, we review construction budgets and with updated engineering estimates to ensure that they are sufficient to keep pace with rising costs. We are forward-looking and utilize our capital reserve responsibly to help reduce borrowing. MetCom's cash flow allows for the front funding of designs, and borrowing through loans is applied for only at the time our cash flow warrants. I would like to again introduce Christy Hollander, our Chief Engineering Officer, who will briefly discuss the upcoming fiscal year 27 sewer and water capital improvement projects.
Thank you, Sean, and good evening, everyone. Our overall capital budget projects demonstrate our ongoing commitment to the maintenance, replacement, and rehabilitation of our infrastructure with a focus on I&I. As I go through the slides, all the updates and changes to the FY26 budget are highlighted in yellow. We will begin with our sewer projects, which include $1 million more programmed in the FY26 CIB last year. We will continue proactive wastewater renewal and rehabilitation programs for the pump stations, continue implementing prioritized inflow and infiltration upgrades and grinder pump replacements, including $502,000 and $880,000 in FY27, respectively. We will continue with flow equalization at the Forest Run wastewater pump station, including $2.4 million in FY27. And we will continue with the planned Piney Point Booster Pump Station project. We modified the scope of our exterior petty building upgrades and reprogrammed that funding to other projects. We will now move on to the water side, which includes $323,000 more programmed than in the FY26 CIB last year. These projects include continued proactive renewal and rehabilitation programs, including $537,000 in FY27. We will construct the St. Clement Shores water storage tank as planned, costing approximately $7 million in 2027. We will revisit the timing of the FY28 AMI metering technology initiative, which allows us to read meters remotely, also giving access to the customers for more information on their bill. The budget includes $168,000 in FY28. We continued planning for the well and rehab and water tank replacement projects, including $171,000 in FY27. And of course, since we fund our projects primarily through low interest loans, our debt capacity plays an important role in the timing of our projects, and Sean will go over that next.
Thank you, Christy. This represents MetCom's projected debt. Under this proposed budget, MetCom's outstanding debt at the end of fiscal year 27 would be about $167 million and $171 million by the end of fiscal year 32. The increase is primarily due to over $34.6 million in consent decree projects that have state mandated deadlines for completion. MetCom's debt as a percent of the assessed value is less than 1%, well within the legal legislative limit, but also less than the combined debt limit of MetCom and county government, which cannot exceed 2.15% of the assessed value. Looking at debt from another perspective, the red bars represent current or outstanding debt, and graphically shows that MetCom retires debt at almost $8 million per year. The budget bars represent the programmed or new debt. The blue bars represent the programmed or new debt. As I mentioned earlier, though it is programmed, MetCom has the cash flow to front fund projects. Thus, we do not actually borrow until the projects are at the construction phase. We generally experience actual debt at approximately 86% of the programmed amount, since projects sometimes do not get accomplished as fast as we would like. Over $40 million remains available for the unanticipated. MetCom maintains over $40 million in debt margin or authority for the unanticipated. MetCom operates under Chapter 113 of the Code of St. Mary's County. With that, all of MetCom's debt is issued with the full faith and credit of the commissioners of St. Mary's County. MetCom still has an A1 issuer rating, which is a reflection of what MetCom's credit would qualify. MetCom's credit quality would be if debt was issued by MetCom, directly by MetCom. MetCom capital projects are funded by the revenue raised from the system improvement charges and capital contribution charges. The next two slides provide a better demonstration of what those rates are and how the revenue they raise is applied. The amount of these fees are developed annually based on the level of debt payments required and the amount planned of new debt. System improvement charges cover the cost of projects for the upgrade and replacement of existing facilities and systems to serve existing customers. A system improvement fee is charged to every customer which has an EDU allocation. This fee is charged monthly, whether the customer is actually connected or not. The fee is necessary because EDUs, which are allocated by the County Land Use and Growth Management Office, are not unlimited. What this means is that if the property has an EDU assigned by the county, the fees must be applied by MetCom. The fiscal year 27 combined charges are 22 cents more than projected in fiscal year 26. The water and sewer improvement charges are increasing by $1.94 and $1.34, respectively, per month for residential customers. Capital contribution charges are a one-time charge paid at the time of connection and are calculated annually based on our debt service. Capital contribution charges fund new and expansion of the facilities. The fiscal year 27 combined charges are $155 more than projected in fiscal year 26. We do have priority projects in the next year, which is reflected by the increase in the one-time charge in sewer only. Water charges have remained flat for both residential and commercial customers for over 6 years. The next four slides reflect annual performance measures. We present these to the MetCom board, the commissioners of St. Mary's County, and are included in our published annual report. These specific measures reflect how we are doing financially in comparison to industry standards. This first measure is debt service coverage and measures our ability to meet the annual debt service requirements after all operational expenses. As of the most recent fiscal year 25 audit, MetCom can meet that coverage 1.34 times. Next is a measure of outstanding debt compared to our annual revenue. This indicates our overall leverage. Less than 5 times is the target, and we are demonstrating a factor of 2.87 times. Sufficient operational revenue reserves is a measurement of liquidity. How able are we to pay our near-term obligations? At the end of fiscal year 25, we were able to fund 368 days of operation, which is well above the established 180-day performance measure. Service affordability as a percent of the median household income. Our current year, fiscal year 26 average billing is projected to be just over 1% of the median household income for St. Mary's County, coming in below the adopted target range of 1.5 to 1.59%. And finally, this year, a new performance measure was incorporated, asset condition. This metric reflects how well MetCom is maintaining its facilities and assets. MetCom is currently performing at the target median of 24 years. This chart graphically shows the total reserves. The solid blue represents restricted reserves, and the light blue, the unrestricted reserves. When our reserves exceed the approved policy levels, we can choose to utilize those reserves to fund projects in lieu of borrowing and incurring more debt. As you can see, the solid blue accumulates, and then those funds get utilized for projects, which has been in our practice since fiscal year 2022. Each year, the audit shows much higher values than are actually realized. This is because proposed use, obligations, and encumbrances are not recorded as actual expenditures by the auditors, and therefore are not reflected as expended in the formal audit. As stated on the last slide, MetCom has an intended use plan for its reserves. We plan to aggressively utilize reserves to keep from borrowing and incurring new debt. For fiscal year 2026, the recommended overall reserve balance is $18.51 million per Financial Advisors Davenport and Company, LLC, assuming no additional reserves are accumulated. The commitments listed on this slide alone would reduce that combined reserve level to about $11.5 million, which is below MetCom's preferred operating policy target level of $18 million.
Thank you, Mr. Bethea and Mrs. Hollander. The next step in this process is we will begin the public comment period this evening. On April 21st, the county commissioners will review the FY27 capital improvement budget and FY28 through FY32 plan. On April 23rd, the MetCom board will discuss any topical issues raised as a result of this public hearing. On the 25th of April, the public hearing comment period will close at 4:30 p.m. On May 12th, the county commissioners are scheduled to approve the FY27 capital improvement budget and plan. And on the 28th of May, the MetCom board will approve the FY27 operating budget and capital improvement budget and plan as required by law. And of course, the new fiscal year for FY27 will commence on July 1st, 2026. At this time, we would like to provide an opportunity for those who might have been watching us live to provide comment by phone over the next 10 minutes. We ask that if you wish to provide comments at this time, you please dial 301-298-1561, extension 454043. That's 301-298-1561, 1561, extension 454043. We have only one phone line open this evening, so there may be a delay in our response. We ask that you remain patient, and that you limit your comments to about 3 minutes each to ensure that everyone had an opportunity to be heard, and that you state your name and address for the record before beginning your comments. It is now 6:45 p.m., and hearing no comments, we would like to remind our viewers that the public record will remain open for 10 days through the close of business at 4:30 p.m. on April 24th, 2026, and any comments that you may wish to forward to the Commission for the Board's consideration are welcome. Either mail us at 23121 Camden Way, California, Maryland, 20619, or email your comments to budget2027@metcom.org. We hope you all had a safe and enjoyable Easter. On behalf of the Metropolitan Commission, we thank you for your interest and thank you for joining us live this evening. The public hearing is now closed.